Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and all of you are the co hosts on this channel. Now, today is Friday, normally reserved for Future Friday. And all week long, we've been talking about rogues galleries from various intellectual properties, mostly comic books. But we do have some other intellectual properties out there that have their own rogues galleries, like I don't know, maybe James Bond or Star Wars. So today we're going to talk about Star Wars, specifically Sith Lords as a rogues gallery. This came up through a video created by the guys over at Tabletop Terrors talking about not establishing just one single big bad guy that's very classic and very common, especially from video games, and of course the relationship it has with our tabletop role playing genre, like having one big dragon or one big demon or one big evil wizard or lich or something. So instead, having a large group of enemies, each with their own agendas, working together against our player characters, and we're going to use Sith Lords, and that's going to be a fuzzy definition. Now, what we don't want to do, of course, is travel down the rabbit hole of, yeah, but that's not canon, because the whole point of what we're going to do is we're going to just use the core essential values of, one of our favorite settings, which is Star Wars, and those evil red lightsabers, kind of red lightsaber wielding enemies we have, and use them as a basis for creating our bad guys. And in many ways, what we will be able to do here is we can all play. The reason for using a rogues gallery anyway is that it allows us not only just a creative spark, but when we don't know what the motivation is for our bad guys, a lot of times a very easy touchstone, a very easy, oh, I know what I'm thinking of. Like, for example, going with our Star Wars theme that we're going to talk about today, when we don't know what our bad guy is like, when we think of Asajj Ventress or General Grievous or Count Dooku or something of that nature, then we know exactly the kind of maybe behavior or vocal mannerisms or all of those things combined. We will now know how they act, maybe how they look, even, and such. Now, we don't need to. We don't bring up an old comment. We don't need to photocopy. We don't need to cut and paste those individuals, although we could, but we don't really need to cut and paste those individuals and put them into our game, but we want to just use some values from them. Okay, so we're not going to go through every single Sith Lord, through all the Star Wars background. I thought we would start at the bottom and work our way to the top. Started from the bottom to the top. So such characters as just like I mentioned before, Count Dooku, Asajj Ventress, General Grievous. I know people will argue that General Grievous isn't a Sith Lord. That's the whole point. All right. And then, of course, we can go with Darth Maul, Darth Vader, and, of course, Emperor Palpatine. I figure we just stick with those six, kind of, because we can go down a rabbit hole of talking about Star Wars, and technically we're talking about role-playing games and tabletop role-playing games. Now, one of the great things I like about the using the General Grievous character as an example, let's see if we can share this here. What I love about using this character is the fact that for General Grievous is like the ultimate poser, I suppose, and as maybe one of the first lowest tier, I guess, lieutenants in your rogues gallery you would like to introduce. I think actually works out pretty good. Yeah, Emperor Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious, who's got the greatest. That actor has got the greatest, um, you know, vocal acting portrayal. Just choose the scenery. Yes, yes. Okay. So for me, Darth Grievous is for my point is great poser kind of character. From a distance, Grievous sounds like, this general, this person that's killed Jedi, which could have been, you could insert replace Jedi, erase Jedi, and include, like, he's killed, dozens of knights and whatnot, in the vast empire in your fantasy setting. Or maybe this individual's been known to take out the greatest warriors from across the land, and is armed, or has with them a collection of their magical blades, and uses them in combat or something. And this is legendary individual, and of course, this legendary individual may have been, or may have been known to be, maybe a powerful wizard, or a magi, or something like that. And then when you meet this person over time, their extensive history, their great titanic battles, maybe little by little, they've lost a little bit of themselves until they've become more of a construct than a human being. Because General Grievous, of course, has very little of his, you know, uh, life left. Of course, known to have that hacking cough, having most of his body replaced by mechanical bits and pieces. So, on one hand, the players may think they're going to go up against maybe a powerful wizard, or a attractive and charismatic general in a major battle. But then when they find this person, they realize that the only thing really left are, like, their lungs and maybe a spine and a brain, all trapped inside of this, like, mechanized body or something, and of course, leading an army of constructs and whatnot. Now, you don't have to necessarily give them constructs, and General Grievous doesn't necessarily need to be a construct himself, but it it does General Grievous does come across as, like, portraying himself to be one thing, but then when you meet him, he's like something completely different, And of course, the argument would be that General Grievous isn't a Sith Lord, but uses lightsabers. And I have no problem. I've never had a problem with that. I know that when that character was introduced, people were like, "Well, wait a minute, wait, how can you no force powers, but has lightsabers from having killed Jedi? Doesn't make sense." And I'm thinking, it makes a lot of sense, right? General Grievous doesn't need to be an anti-paladin or some kind of oath breaker to have killed paladins, but it would be funny and kind of cool for the players to think that in the beginning, and then you realize, nah, that's not what he is. Z Zamora says Grievous was forced into his into his role, made for a great foil for Obi-Wan, as one got to choose their role while the other was forced into it. Oh, I see what you're saying. So while Obi-Wan, for the good guy side, was a person who chose the role they had, General Grievous was forced into the role of being, well, basically the general. And of course, this is a great thing to do as well, because you get some. We all know that Sith, what is it? There's no honor amongst thieves. That the reason why there really can't be, or maybe for a very short amount of time, there was a Sith army, but they're evil. They like to backstab each other quite a bit. they all think they're shall I say, top shit, right? They all think that their shit don't stink, and that they should be in control. And of course, Grievous is probably plotting to to take over the Sith lords that put him into power in the first place. And little by little, if this character returns over and over again, because one of the concepts of General Grievous is that, well, Grievous keeps running away to fight another day, and that character could even grow throughout the campaign, maybe gaining another magic sword, gaining another mechanical bits and bobble onto their artificial body or something like that. That would be kind of cool. Like, you fight General Grievous, and I don't know, you use the stat of, like, an iron golem, and then the next time they fight, they have, like, they've got an extra arm attached to them, plus some extra a blade of armor or something, and they're like, "What? There's blades attached to this thing now?" And now he can, I don't know, eject fire out of its chest plate or something. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Cameron's like, yeah, so Grievous is a custom war-forged fighter with photonic cutlasses who smokes a lot of weed. Smoking that weed. I'll defeat you all. Hold on. Oh man, that's good. Yes, very much so. Basically, smoking weed, kind of having like uh, uh having dreams about being much bigger than he really is. Grievous Vampanoid says Grievous eventually becomes an inevitable. Ooh, ooh, yeah, and of course, in Dungeons and Dragons, for example, we can break the rules all we want. Right? We can break the rules as in other words, can we give this Warforged two extra arms and give it, I don't know, four attacks? Of course we can. What was in the movie when he takes the two arms go over his head and they start spinning like these whirling blades or something? And does that mean that if the player, I don't know, approaches within 5 feet that they're going to get slashed by these photonic blades or something like that? Of course we can make up things like that on the fly or written into the character. And of course, if any kind of mechanical creature, we can do whatever we want. But so let's move on from General Grievous, who, of course, given the title of general or commander or Khan or Rex or admiral or whatever in our rogues gallery, they of course, this person of course is the proverbial lowest lieutenant in our rogues gallery. So let's move on to Asajj Ventress. And Asajj, another great character here. Of course, in the canon, is a character trained by Count Dooku, and she's kind of like a combination of assassin and rogue and someone hiding in the shadows. And this the closest thing to a femme fatale in Star Wars, I suppose, as well. Um, Dead Man says, the rule of two from Star Wars. Two there should be, no more, no less. One to embody power, the other to crave it. From Darth Bane. Um, Believe you me, it's what I find strange about. Listen, I love the idea of rule of two. What I find strange about the rule of two is why would evil people listen to any rules at all? Makes you think. Also, in a strange way, that could be a clue for the player characters to play these Sith Lords against each other. So if they know there's like a half dozen of them, because we're going to hopefully talk about six of them. If there's a half dozen of them, maybe the player characters understand, oh, we could set Asajj against General Grievous, and then that will leave us with five left if they start to fight each other. You know what I mean? Like play it against it. If the rule is there's a rule of two, and believe you me, I don't know why evil people would. I'm sure they would want that rule instituted for others. They would never want to believe that for themselves. So I've always had a problem with that as a concept that they actually listen to rather than one that they go that rather than an official part of their training. I guess it would that that's just me. I always feel like it should be instituted and then broken all the time, and then they're like, "Oops, maybe I should have listened to that rule," which is the whole point, right? Because one always tries to crave the power from the other one, their master. Um, Zamara0292 says, just like the Sith, the best villain operates on rules that the players, the good guys, can or will not. Do you mean like what is it? The classic lawful evil villain is also a great trope, right? Where the villain is evil to the core, except for, like I'm bad, but I don't hurt like women and children, or I'm devious, but I don't believe in mass murder. Like I only kill other combatants. Like I would never kill an unarmed person, or a villain that is even, shall we say, civil, like willing to like I'll duel you, that's fine, but I don't believe in like collateral damage or something, or just having a moral code is a classic villain trope that almost makes us respect the bad guy. Whether even if that bad guy is like, hey, I'm a mercenary, I go to the highest bidder, or when I get a mission, I always complete my mission, or I'm doing this for the purpose of defending my people, and as long as my people are safe living in the Five Kings Mountain, I'm willing to do anything it takes. But I'll never hurt my people, and I give my money, my soul, my life to defend my people, that kind of thing. So like Zamar kind of brings up, talking about the best villain operates within the rules. I agree. I think it's probably the top, like a top five trait I think we can get with that. We also talked earlier in the week about, sympathetic villains. And I think like that. Cameron's like, yeah, the later Sith seem like they're mostly lawful evil. I agree. I definitely agree. And of course, if we really think about it, every time they break that, it's their downfall, right? Like I'm purely lawful evil, but when I deviate from my core value, that's the downfall that I have, and so I like it. I like it a lot. Zamara says, to answer the rule of two, it's because when there were more, they ruled the galaxy and literally started destroying each other in mass. So Bane finished the job, and his second still his second still broke it. Exactly. Like I don't. What I mean is sometimes we can become over canonized. Like, well, why did that Sith Lord have I don't know, a handful of Sith apprentices? Don't they know the rule of two? And it's like, of course they do, but they're evil, right? That's kind of the point of having the rule in the first place, is that somebody's going to break the rule, and the fun part comes when they break the rule and it works against them, right? That's why the Sith did destroy each other. They didn't have a rule, and of course, there's always going to be somebody coming up behind them that does the same thing. Remember, what is it? Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine both broke those rules. So yeah, Vampire says the Jedi seemed okay with with mass murder when it came to the Sith Holocaust. Yep, it's kind of a circular origin, which of course with our rogues gallery, that may be another way to sympathize with our rogues gallery, right? It could be that they came about. We always have the fallen knight, the people who have uh, place themselves ethically and morally on a higher plateau, that fall the greatest because they've risen so high. And of course they could be members of a royal entourage or something that left and whatnot and came back. um, Mike says, peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The force shall free me. Yep, I definitely agree that Max Mill are a great storyline. Absolutely. Now, Asajj Ventress, I think, makes a great, for a rogues gallery here. I think Asajj Ventress, the 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 character to fight another day also works great for this character as well. Maybe in the beginning, the Asajj Ventress character is known simply through word of mouth, maybe like a name or a vision in shadows and mist, where uh, various enemies are thrown against the player characters, and the player characters are like, why does everyone know our name, and why are they constantly hunting us down? And it's like, there's all I know is the name Asajj or something, whatever. You could come up with another name, and this individual can be introduced through maybe um, uh, a rumor, a phrase, an image, maybe played up that this person seems much different than they are, much like how uh, in Gotham City, Batman is known as a demon or a shadow, or a human sized bat or something, and then you actually meet this individual, and then she shows up because really you want to keep the characters around for a little bit longer than one interaction, and of course having a character that is fast and quick and lethal and maybe more powerful than one individual, but not more powerful than our entire group of protagonists is makes a lot of sense as well. Yeah. Zamara says that actually makes for a great campaign. Your big bad coming to your players to take down their second because their second is wrecking things and he needs to hold it together. I like that as well. It's almost like it's like the bad guy recruiting the good guys to take out their lieutenant, their lower level, because they're wrecking shop, or the opposite. The let's go with, since we're moving up the line, let's go with the General Grievous who gets beaten down and is like, I need to take out Asajj because she's she's much greater than I am. She's the next tier up, and I'll work with you to take her down or something. And the other way around, since we're on Asajj right now, maybe Asajj comes to the player characters like, I know you've confronted him plenty of times, and I'll help you take him down. And the players are like, we don't trust you, and she's like, you don't have to trust me. Just know that we're on the same side, at least for this. So yeah, I like that for a campaign. And what an easy in, right? Like, instead of the classic, you're in a tavern and the old man comes in with a map and the adventure starts from there. Like, the quest giver could be the bad guy that's like, hey, listen, I'm a vampire lord, but you want to take out the dragon, I'll give you a couple of hints, right? Because they're like you said, they're screwing things up. Like, wait, we have a plot to take over the world, and you're out there, I don't know, acquiring, because of your vanity or your greed or um, your desire for to have sycophants around you is drawing attention to our greater mission. So yeah. Yeah, like Pelora says, like, of course, quote, you can trust me to desire power. Exactly. Like there are bad guys that are like, yeah, you can trust me because you know what I want. And what I want is, like, if we go with the lawful evil theme, there are bad guys that are like, no, I want these people to obey my orders. This person isn't obeying my orders, so you can trust that I don't like the fact that they're doing this. So yeah, I love this idea. Mike says, I like Raven and Bane as Revan, excuse me, Revan and Bane as antagonists. One fell, rose again, then fell again. So there's depth. The other can use the dark side to generate intense illusion on a Mysterio level. Yeah, and mind you, of course, we don't have to use the Force, although technically they're space wizards. So yeah. Uh, Mike says, an antagonist who is charismatic, who may seduce players to their side. Outstanding, absolutely. And this Asajj character doesn't need to fight physically, like roll initiative, fight the player characters at all. They could be evil and just go like, I'm not going to fight you. I'll lose. Like, I have no desire to fight you against a thing. I'm just pointing you in the direction of other people. I brought up before about classic procedural television where a detective has a contact on the streets, and they let that contact on the streets, commit crimes, maybe petty crimes or something, because they keep their ear to the street. And they also are like, listen, I'm bad and I know I break the law and I'm evil, but I'm not that evil. Right? I'm evil, but I don't do those things. It's the criminal with a code. I don't I don't sell drugs to kids. I don't traffic, you know, young girls. I don't, those kind of things, like where the criminals like, yeah, you're not a soldier on the streets. We only go after each other. And she might be that kind of character. Mike Gould says the enemy of my enemy concept is how one has less than good player characters in a group party. Absolutely. Great origin for uh, I've always felt that when people say, well, can I have an evil campaign? I'm going, we, there's been evil campaigns for 40, 45 years already in role playing games. We just don't call them that. But the character that might have been part of this group very easily could have a background in that. We'll move on in just a moment. Mike continues on to say that the Jedi Sith can be translated into paladins, given their code or oath. Being able to sheath their weapons at a certain level and mystic power is full on Star Wars. Of course it was. Much like monks came from those classic 70s martial arts flicks. Are paladins like Jedi? Of course they are. How many player characters have played their character like a Jedi because maybe that's the thing they're familiar with? Of course. Of course. And uh, how many spell like abilities literally translate into Jedi like powers, say most of them, shield, healing powers, being able to leap and jump far distances, being able to block attacks, blasting things from afar, anything from mage hand to thunder wave to magic missile and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely. And could you reskin it that way? Yeah. These are not these are not the Warforged you're looking for. Move along. Right? I use a command spell or friend spell or come on, charm person. Come on, give me some others. Anyway, Vampanoid says, curious how a fight with someone like Darth Vectis, excuse me, Darth Vaticvis, who was considered good by many. Players may feel dirty after something like that and question their own actions, especially if you guys know I love throwing in a bit of a of like a bit of a monkey wrench into a thing and imagine the player characters adventuring, but there's a parallel party trying to achieve the same goals, but they're screwing it up, right? So there might be so-called the good paladins or knights out there to go take out these Sith lords, but they're going about it all wrong, and they themselves might be falling, uh, going down a dark path on their mission, and the player characters are like, don't like, oh, did they do, they get to a village and they realize the whole village has been eliminated, there's dead bodies everywhere, and the bad guys show up and they're like, we didn't do that, that's your side. So yeah, Vampano, I agree, like using like a Vectivus or a even a Revan or that type of, okay, not even that. Like who's another character? Maybe my it's the Anakin before Anakin fell, right? And the players understand that if they put this Anakin type character down, that they themselves will be on the outs, but they understand that this character is going down a dark path because no one else sees what they're doing except the rest of us, us player characters and whatnot. Yeah, Jedi. Yeah. Mike says Jedi are based on monks, so translating that back is also totally acceptable. Oh yeah, of course. Heck yeah. And Jedi mind trick suggestion spell. Absolutely. And of course, you know what? And even what is the much malayed arcane knight fits into this category as well. But there's other character classes I think that fit perfectly well as well. I think barbarian could fit into this. I know it sounds strange, but I think barbarian it, erase the serial numbers, and barbarian fits as a Jedi as well. That they're erase rage and replace it with like what's another term? The living force or something like that. They supplant their own personality and just move and act and react and battle with the force moving through their body, giving them physical power and speed and whatnot. So yeah, surviving harm and all that kind of business. Absolutely, barbarians can jump and run and swim, long distances and things. Same thing there. Zamora says the good guys going down a dark path equals Clone Wars era Jedi. I could see that. That in a way, um, Zamar, I like the subtext of players going like in a campaign, and they start out with this like rose-colored glasses, like we're the good guys, they're the bad guys, and as they move through the campaign, they are challenged with having to. They're challenging the rules, or the bad guys are laying seeds in front of them that the rules you're following, they don't really work the way you think they work in the real world, and having to compromise themselves and get to the end and they actually change. That would be, yep. Pelora is like a zealous fervor for the Jedi. Yeah, and like Mike Gould says, like, right? A zealot barbarians are perfect for that. Exactly. As long as, and we're creatives, long as you reskin that thing. Like, could you imagine a player character going into a Jedi trance and slashing away at their enemies, and their allies are like, "Wake up! Like, get out of that!" you know? put the saber down. They're like, my enemies must be taken down. They're evil. And you're like, yeah, you're not too far from that. Yeah, but Mike says barbarian would be a dark side. They literally embrace their emotions to carry them through battle. Ooh, that's kind of sweet. Anyway, Mike also says the best enemy for a party is literally a duplicate of that party. Copy the PC's sheets. Yep. Change the alignment and goals. Give them each a rival personality. Hell's yes. And if you really want to throw a monkey wrench into it, change the gender, change the race up a little bit, the appearance and whatnot. The players will never know, and well, they'll know at some point. They'll know. You start rolling dice. There's a player in your group that's like, I see what you're doing there. What did you added a smite? You're not calling it smite. That's a smite, isn't it? No, it's the blood rage of death. And like, nah, that's a smite. But yes, absolutely. Vampanoy mentions, like the fall of Zariel before the events of descent into Avernus. One day they may find themselves on wanted posters for collateral damages to people caught in the crossfire. So we've moved on to here to Count Dooku. And what I love about our third member of our Rogues Gallery, Count Dooku, is literally Count Dooku is a politician of sorts, right? Maybe working on the outside as a, in the movie lore, I suppose, and in books and things, in the canon, a member of the Separatist given orders by someone else. And what a great foil for the player characters, because Count Dooku sounds like, oh, I don't know, could like what's the what's Ravenloft, Strahd or something like that. Like, hey, I'm a count, I'm a noble, I'm head of maybe a nation state or a city state or something. I have people underneath me. Maybe Count Dooku does have this agent Ventress and does have this General Grievous underneath him, but then you find out like the Count's like, nope, I'm just following somebody else's orders. Mofa's like, Star Wars shows politicians are almost all inherently evil. Yeah, a little too close to reality, huh? and you being the sarcasm I see in your voice, uh, maybe this Count Dooku version that you've created for your world really did have a good point, right? Like, it was like, no, I'm a good guy. I plan on taking down the old blue bloods and nobles by creating my own nation state and going to war with them, and being literally a separatist in my own country or something like that. And of course, corrupted by having to compromise their morals more and more and more until Sith Lord, right? Or fallen into the Sith type of thoughts. Now, what I didn't bring up with previously with Asajj is that Asajj has been trying, has been going through the crucible to become a Sith Lord and hasn't quite gotten there yet. And we could make the distinction between the behavior of someone who, definitely has all the behaviors and skills and desires to be a Sith Lord, and being given the title of said thing, or the training of said thing. So someone could very well, like Asajj, is absolutely positively as powerful as any of the various entourages of Sith Lords we've seen out there, even without the title. And so maybe there's a an NPC or even a player character that wants to achieve a title of something, but we find out that there's no real need to have to go that far because they're already there. You know, Mike says the Jedi Sith concept could carry through to species as well, riffing on Vampanoid like Asimar or Fallen Asimar. Yep, the dual thing, metallic and chromatic Dragonborn, etc. Each culture may have a tendency to follow a certain path. Absolutely, it would be. I wonder how. I suppose you could put into the game the ability to change your race based on the rise and fall of your choices. I don't know how. Some might think that would be weird to change yourself as a dragonborn from chromatic to metallic, but maybe that's a real thing, a possibility in that particular culture. Yet, and Mike continues, yet may rebel against that concept as well, going back and forth, or maybe even having a loved one, or a, like, for example, you could have, it could be racial, but not like, maybe human beings follow dragon lords, and if you follow the metallic dragon lords, you're good, and you follow the chromatic dragon lords, you're evil. And maybe they graduate to acquiring that in themselves, more like a title, or a bestowed condition than anything else. I don't know. Pelora says, didn't Dooku get fed up with the Jedi not taking the Sith's threat seriously and go rogue on the back of that? Like, his saber style is designed to fight other saber users when it wasn't seen as needed. I didn't want to say that, but yes, I thought Dooku did was a good guy, and the other Jedi didn't listen. Great, again, sympathetic individual. Maybe this person, Count Dooku, was to recruit the player characters in a serious manner. Like, listen, join me. Like, those stuffy shirted, blue blooded nobles over there. Don't listen to them. Come with me. Like, literally, like, you can join me. It's fine. I'm not evil. I'm just fighting against a world where you don't have any freedoms and such. And again, this individual, this Count Dooku, may not even fight the player characters. He could literally be a patron to the player characters, not in the warlock sense, but maybe more in the player character sense, and begins that way. Like, you could even insert this character like, oh, no, hey guys, you guys are going to go on missions, you're going to go adventuring, I'll support you, here's some coin, here's some places to stay, I'll open up some doors for you. And then come to find out, like, I don't know if I agree with his methods anymore. Or you find out that Dooku also has a parallel group, and it's like, you guys, I don't want you guys doing the dirty work, but I have another group that is doing the dirty work, like a religious organization. Let's say Dooku was part of a religion, and is like, yeah, we hired assassins and murderers and whatnot, but it's only to further to spread our religion. Mike says Count Dooku would be an excellent devil, charming, commanding, and secretly a martial badass. Ooh, yeah, absolutely. Listen, just about every devil has the ability to either appear through illusion, through magic, shape change, maybe, or even just looks charming and commanding. Doesn't You don't need to make all the devils look devilish with horns and flames and whatnot. Maybe he's just a charismatic dude. And me, I love those mid-level lieutenant people, like Ogre Magi, Sphinx, Naga, Rakshasa. Absolutely could be that person. And what a strange bad guy to maybe respect our heroes. Like, I don't want to kill you, I don't want to fight you. Matter of fact, listen, I know you think I'm doing wrong. I'm going to let you go on. I'm going to let you slide, because I think maybe in your mind you're thinking of something else. But you guys, you're pointing your weapons at me. You're forcing your attention at me. Let me tell you who's a bigger bad, and starts pointing up the ladder, right? Michael says Dragonborn may well shed their scales like other reptiles. Falling or ascending to a path may end with a molt. Ooh, I like that. And the Dragonborn is reborn as the new variant. What happens if you find the molted skin of a legendary silver or golden Dragonborn, and the skin is left behind? And someone is like, they look down, and maybe there's like little evidence of like red scales or black scales, and they're like, oh no, no, they were our greatest hero. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. The silver dragon like pulls off their armor, and they're at a rock or something, scraping their skin. They're like, this isn't working any longer. I'm being shackled in. And then, like, the black scales are appearing under their flesh as they're peeling it off again. Michael says, Dooku was a legendary duelist. The hilt of his lightsaber was literally designed for one-on-one dueling. That might be a throwback to the nobility, and maybe even this Count Dooku style character might go up against the player characters like, no, I'm not. Listen, if we're gonna do battle, and of course here's the thing about having a a bad guy who a bad guy, and of course, lady or whatever, that has a moral code. It's like, I'll fight you, but just one on one, like one of you and one of me, and that's it. And let's go for it. If we have to come to blows, we're going to have a duel. Uh, and maybe this person even thinks of the player characters as being beneath them for not having that moral code. Like, oh no, I don't mind murdering people. It's just going to be me against you. It won't be through an army or something like that. Mike says if you can create an antagonist that the players not only fight but learn to respect, then you've won D&D. Yeah, like could you imagine the Count Dooku person fights like the player characters and literally you roll the dice and it's like boom, your character's dead, and Dooku's like nope, get on up, puts his hand out like come on, stand up, come heal your friend here, come on, heal him up. Listen, let's sit down and talk because we're fighting each other, but really we need to be fighting somebody above me. And so let's go on to who so let's go to Darth Maul. All right, so we're gonna go. Is it going to be give me an image? Oh, that's the lightsaber. I just want Darth Maul himself. Sorry, I don't want Darth Maul's lightsaber. I just want Darth Maul. Hmm. There we go. Maybe this will work because I gotta get a good image here. All right, here we go. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so moving up the line, we have ourselves Darth Maul, and Darth Maul, much similar in concept to Asajj Ventress, is like the pit bull, right? We've seen uh, James Bond. This is a perfect segue to like a James Bond thing where you always have the bad guy who's stroking the cat on his lap, which sounds pretty bad, kind of. But yeah, Mike's like, Maul's my favorite Sith. As one who fights with a staff, I dig his fighting style. Best duel ever. Oh, hands down. The movie, the fight scene, sweet. Actually, one of the best scenes for me that really, as a kid, really made me embrace the divisions between the Jedi and the Sith is when they're fighting near that power core and you see Darth Maul pacing like a caged tiger, like pacing back and forth with the dual lightsaber, and you see like the force field screen doors are like opening and closing and whatnot, one after another, preventing I guess radiation or whatever to get back and forth, and then of course we see Qui-Gon Jinn like close his eyes and kneel down and like taking deep breaths and calming himself, and I love that pacing, that caged lion. Predator like going back and forth. And one aspect we could pull from, say, a Darth Maul for one of our bad guys is Maul doesn't say too much. I know in the clone comes back in the Clone Wars with the spider legs and whatnot, but also as going back to the James Bond thing, in the James Bond bad guy has always had the bodyguard, the right hand man, the person who goes out in the field with a bunch of lackeys and minions, similar to General Grievous, but more like, you know what, I'm going to go out there and beat some ass, and if that means if it's just me, if it's me with a bunch of lackeys, we're going to go out there and take out these characters. And I like the idea of this high level, high challenge rating bad guy that can take on multiple player characters. Very difficult to do, very difficult, but in the game. But yeah, if side note, if you watch Sly Flourish actually has a mathematical formula for challenge ratings. If you're like, okay, what's a lethal challenge rating for this group of the party? And he does a little mathematical formula. It's one quarter of the levels up to level 5, one half the levels up through level 10, 75% through 15, and 100% through level 16 and above. So for example, through the four tiers, like tier at tier 16 and above, what he's saying is add up all the levels of the characters. So, for example, if they're all 20th level and you've got four 20th level characters, then you should have 40, 20, 40, 60, 80 CR worth of creatures against your player characters, essentially, is the math he does. And at like first through fifth level, he's like a quarter of that. So if they're all fifth level, you got four characters. And so that's 5, 10, 15, 20 points. A quarter of that is 5. So CR5 ish monsters should be a bit of a challenge for the player characters. A bit. Um, Michael says Maul is the kind of antagonist you send after a PC to send a message. He shows up, does not pause or delay, and annihilates a PC's loved one, then stares at the PC and walks away. Yeah, send it a message. Hey, remember that tavern you liked? Remember that old lady that make those tasty pastries? Burn it down. Throws the old woman down in the street, sees the PCs coming, zoom, slices the old lady and walks away. Like, yeah, see what you do. But you know what? If you want PCs to open up a can of whoop ass, Darth Maul's the character to do it. Like, if the players aren't pulled by a hook, oh my goodness, easy. This character easily pull the players into action. You know, Michael says Maul's exactly that, the neutral evil right hand man. Like most action movies in the '80s, the right hand man was almost always a martial badass with zero issues. They sure were back in. Listen, all the greatest athletes, martial artists, and physically intimidating individuals all became '80s right hand men, right? Whether they were super tall, like in Doctor No or all the James Bond movies. If you were super tall, maybe sumo sized, whether you were like Bolo Young, where you were just a big muscular martial arts person, heck, even Van Damme played a bad guy, a right hand bad guy. Now, here's the other thing: Darth Maul doesn't say much, but Darth Maul does have a personality. And one of the great things about having a rogues gallery is, again, we can set each one against each other. Darth Maul might be blinded by loyalty to the service of his evil lord. And there might be a way for the players to turn Darth Maul, at least by exposing the truth or exposing loopholes in the whole, you serve this person, but you know there's something wrong with them, kind of thing. Michael says movies like Die Hard, View to a Kill, yep, Lethal Weapon, etc., all have two IC characters. My brain's moving on that. Usually blonde or albino who are stone killers. Yes, usually blonde or albino. Yeah. Die Hard. Shoot the glass. What? Hey, Hans. So Vampanoid says, maybe you just have a cool hat and that's why you're a right-hand man. A cool hat with blades on it, you mean? Yeah. Oh, man. Zamora says, Darth Maul, to be the perfect hardline villain made from going down the line of evil and losing. He dies but comes back weaker in the background. You hear rumors but don't see him. Goes on. Let's see. Then you finally see him and hear how he was revived, went crazy, became stronger and wiser, now is near unstoppable because he learned from the PCs and he knows something they don't. You know what? That's a great. Thank you for pointing that out. Darth Maul, if we want to get real role play technical, does grow in levels. Darth Maul learns, gets a voice, moves away from the pit bull, uh, uh, no voice but pacing predator into this individual that's like, you know what? I had to wake up and see and smell myself and realize like, whoa, maybe man, I do. My shit does sing. Second in command. Thank you very much. Second in command. Thank you there, Mike. My brain was just like, what? Fart. But yes, absolutely. The idea that maybe the PCs do attack the bad guy and slice him in half, and you bring them back. Now, mind you, I would be careful of doing this maybe once in a campaign, but when the players literally trounce one of your bad guys, I mean completely like die rolls and everything, it's just like there's no way they're getting out of this. They're dead. And you bring them back anyway. Now, of course, in fantasy gaming, there's all kinds of ways to bring people back through wish spells and resurrections and revivify and any narrative excuse you want. A warlock patron of one of the PCs comes by and revives that person. One of the gods reaches down, an outer world being brings them into the astral plane where they can, whatever. They're again giving mechanical legs, spider legs for the lower half of their body or something. But I would, as a player, like I would like that. I would like them to come back. Yeah, I killed them as a CR3 entity back then, but now that they're CR17, yeah, why not? Mike Gould says, Jet Li from Lethal Weapon 3. Was it Lethal Weapon 3? 3 or 4, maybe. I think it's 4. Set the standard for badass martial arts villain. Consider Ivan Drago, cold stare, and will just kill just to get through a target. They do not see the humanity of the PC. I must break you. And what was it? Jet Li in the Lethal Weapon movies had the prayer beads, and so looks peaceful and just before he was about to kill, start to smile, and then use the prayer beads as a garrote, a garrote around people's necks to strangle them, and the wire go through their necks and stuff. Yeah, a little bit of the sprinkling a little bit of that goodness inside of that evil. Yeah, I love it. Yep. Vampiro says Maul would definitely be a drow. Just ruthless efficiency and uses a dual weapon. Then he fails and comes back as a drider. Ooh, yeah, I like that. I'm with Mike. I'm like, ooh, that's right. Comes back as a drider, and guess what? Loth, done. Queen of the spider web, queen of the demon web pits, right? Done. Character killed, drow cut in half, falls down a pit, comes back as a drider. PCs are like, what? Okay, so of course, we we have to move on to Darth Vader. We have to move on to Darth Vader. I know, classic, a classic, un mimicable. I suppose you're really going to have to reskin this character, but Darth Vader, of course, since we've moved on from Maul, we're doing our rogues gallery, right? Maybe some of these other hangers on are still around, and Darth Vader definitely is the proverbial um what's all the strongest aspects of all the player characters? Let's put them together into one, right? Darth Vader very much not just physically, but is like definitely a top level villain. While that's part of our rogues gallery, and again, there's a weakness in there. There is a weakness. Um, as far as like maybe the player characters can't fight Darth Vader. Maybe this character literally is immune to nearly everything the players have to throw at him, and they have to find the weakness. Maybe this Darth Vader like character does have a little bit of humanity and has been keeping their family hidden in the background in a small village somewhere, or doesn't realize that their family is still alive because the person that created them, like a lich lord that has gone through the ancient rituals and sacrifices to make themselves a lich. And then you realize that the lich did this because their family was killed. And they're like, nope, family's still alive. Remember that evil pact you made to become a lich? Yeah, you did that under false pretenses. I say lich, but a Darth Vader like character could nearly be, you could reskin them as nearly anything. And now, mind you, they don't need to necessarily be human. They don't need to be a humanoid. I'm just saying that because we're talking about Sith Lords, they're all humanoid type characters. What I'm saying is that you could layer on this character like, uh, a character is a barbarian. Great, I'm going to give this character, like, I'm literally going to make an amalgam of all the player characters' best abilities into this one person. Yeah. Mike says, I've used Drider villains before to great effect, especially when they use magic. I homebrewed a lasso he'd use to literally pull the soul out of dead or unconscious targets to generate specters. Ooh. Plus, let's not forget wall crawling, too. Using space and heights and ceilings and stuff with Driders. Yeah. Going to Darth Vader. Vader is full of max level conquest vengeance paladin. Full on max level. Yeah, yeah. The very definition of lawful evil. He's less a villain and more of a force of nature. That's the difficult thing about having one-on-one bad guys, which is why we're talking about rose galleries, right? Like, it's very difficult to have one aspect and then other things. Although you could cheat by surrounding Darth Vader with, say, let's say we want to get as close to Darth Vader as possible. You could surround Darth Vader with unseen servants, invisible, invisible stalkers, air elementals, or something to kind of mimic the force swirling around Darth Vader. You may also want to include maybe even uh, Banshee or a ghost to represent like a psychic force or something. If you want to get a little bit close to that as well, I hear Death Knight. Who said that? Who said that? Keith Bell says Darth Vader equals Death Knight. Yes, absolutely. And you might want to add some other things on there. Like, for example, of course, we're talking Star Wars. You don't need to necessarily equate this, but a magic weapon pretty helps in that too. As well. Sorry. Thank you, co-host here. Zamara says Dooku versus Vader, both fallen knights, but one is a noble who rose a little bit and fell, but kept his morals, while the other rose from the bottom to great heights and fell just as far. Ooh, ooh, I'm liking that. I like that a lot. Damn, you talk about what a great thread to pull. Z, slow clapping on that one. Like, because the players might feel for your Darth Vader like character. Like, listen, they they were literally a slave. They were at the bottom of the social ladder and moved their way up. I kind of understand why they feel that way. Like, I kind of understand why they're a badass and taking people down, even if they did go up to become a knight and then left the knightly order and became that Death Knight, like you were mentioning there, Keith. Yeah, yeah. I see you there, Cam. Cam's like, thanks, Cam. Cam's like, join me in supporting DBJ on Patreon with $1 a month. Yeah, yeah. Just Patreon and coffee. KO hyphen FI coffee. So if you want to drop a dollar or something into the coffee pot, sure, or something like that. Thank you very much for that, Cam. I really appreciate that. I really don't talk about that because I just like hanging out with you guys, but why the hell not? Zamara says bonus points for having the Vader character as the savior of the PCs early on. Ooh, ooh, man, could you imagine? Okay, NPC helps player characters along, maybe even travels with them, i.e., our party needs a cleric. Goes along, the Anakin, right? Goes along, maybe as a squire of one of the player characters, or even a relative. Hey, cousin, stay in the back. I want you to be safe. Okay. Maybe it's an NPC that they have to protect going from during a fetch quest to go from A to B, and the NPC is like, man, I love you guys, and then they go on, and this person moves up, and then of course they end up fighting the armored, shielded, can't tell who they are bad guy, and they pull the helmet off, and they're like, what you were you what the hell happened here? And they're like, you ignored me. I moved up in the ranks. I did what you couldn't do, or whatever. Yeah. Mike Gould says his force choke might be a gallows built on the back of his armor that will misty step a target into the noose on a failed save. Force choke. Hells yes. Ooh. I Is it force cage or wall of force around your head? Suck out all the oxygen or something. Although I suppose you could mimic the same effect with like a hold person, hold monster. It just looks like that. What's another one? An entangle. There are ways to get around that, but yeah. Misty step a target into the noose. That's awesome. Vampanoid says Vader has that awesome line in a comic. Rebels have him surrounded. Vader says, "Oh, all I am surrounded by is fear and dead men." Terrible, terrible Vader. I know. Oh man, that's a reference into the giant line. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I love it. I love it a lot. And thanks, Cam. Anyway, okay. So, lastly, of course, we do have before we get out of here, we have the Emperor Palpatine, and of course, Emperor Palpatine is the ultimate big bad, the ultimate um, what would you call more much like you guys were saying Vader is more a force of nature. I suppose in a role playing sense, Emperor Palpatine is far more demigod, otherworldly. Like I could see to translate Palpatine, I could see Palpatine being having having a physical avatar presented before your player characters that they might be able to beat ass with, and but having a tenuous connection back to an outer plane to come back again, much like Orcus, Demogorgon, Asmodeus, all these like demon lords or something like that. Like I can imagine them Lich Lord and coming back again. Yeah. I'm going to get your comment there, Mike. Vampanoid says Palpatine is a Lich Lord, like a Sararak or Vecna level. Yeah, absolutely. And we can. Why can't we ever find the phylactery? Why is it on this other planet? Yeah, clones equal to phylactery or something. Yep. Mike says I might give paladin levels to a fire giant to pull a Vader who commands his hobgoblin stormtroopers. Oh, from the comment above. I'm sorry, I did skip over that. Yeah, it's hard for me to get all the comments, but yeah. Ooh, ooh, fire giant. You could. Um, there's got to be a way to come up with a ton of minions as well. Paladin levels to a fire giant. We don't do that often. I know Pathfinder is all about giving character levels to monsters, and I think it could be a little confusing. But I think we can do the middle ground. Excuse me. I wish we fifth edition had a middle ground where you could just layer on a thing onto a monster, like not necessarily like specifically seventh level paladin. What I mean is to take the core essential value of the thing, the class level, and give it to something like giving rage and layer that onto a monster. Take druidic shape changing or elemental power and put that on top of one of your adversaries and just mix the two and just leave it at that, right? Like I want to give almost like a half dragon kind of thing, but just used with character class levels. I always wonder why they didn't do that. Mike says Palpatine might be a wraith, mummy lord, or a lich, and depends on your uh, referring to how you worded it. Like depending on the level of the characters, again, a wraith, a mummy lord, a lich, especially with wraiths, because don't they create don't or is it whites that create wraiths or wraiths that create whites and specters that create anyway it's the undead that when it kills something it creates another one of itself under its leadership, much like gas and ghouls. Yeah, I could see something like that as well, where he's creating other dark powers underneath them, and narratively we're describing it as if this person is recruiting them as opposed to killing them. Zamara says the Emperor, the ultimate big bad, not because he is strong, but because he has connections. He pulls the strings. He started the war by giving the enemy the means to fight, just for unlimited power. Absolutely, and again, uh, like Zamara is mentioning, like there's a lot of narrative power in like essentially Palpatine is also the ultimate warlock patron. I'll dangle power in front of you if you just follow me. It's all you got. I can show you what ultimate power is. All you got to do, all you got to do is just take a knee. Just that's it. Yeah, bonus points if he gives the PCs their weapons and missions. Yep. I didn't even read that comment. Yeah. Here you go, PCs, and they're like, "What? You're just going to give me a magic item before I go on a mission?" Yep. Here's a blade for you. Here's a staff for you. And like, oh wow, that's awesome, I guess. And then at the very end, it's like, give me back my gifts or else. Of course, having a hey, I'll give you all the gifts, but I can turn all those gifts off with the snap of my fingers. Mike Gould says, because it's a favorite monster, I might use an Elder Obelix as a Sith Lord. There we go with the Obelix again. It's a great monster though. They can beat anyone anywhere and appear without notice. They can command, charm, and absorb foes. See, you're like me. You love to find those monsters and adversaries that have that great combination of like badass fighting ability plus also that narrative part where they can like manipulate and connive and command and intimidate and sneaky also, plus they have that little, let's be honest, they also have that little trait where they can kind of get away with things and get the hell out of there when we need them to come back again. Yeah, Mike. Yep. Yeah. Is it wraiths? Wraiths make specters, whites make zombies. That's it. Okay, all right, there we go. But you know what? Both I think fit with an emperor styled bad guy, mummy lord as well, mummy lord commanding other mummies, and of course we have ultimate creativity. We can reskin, reframe anything that we want. So yeah, I love it. Instead of like killing an enemy, he takes his enemies down, and just before they die, he's like, "I'll give you a choice. You can die on your knees, knowing that your plans are failed, or you could join me, and then maybe one day, you may rise again." Vampire says, "Here, drink this blue milk, and you get powerful." Yeah, the blue milk. I've had the blue milk at Galaxy's Edge. It's pretty good. Palpatine should really be an archdevil of or Duke of Hell. Yeah, yeah, and the literally each person that he's transformed has lived in a hell of their own making. See how I did that? See how that came back around? Oh man, yep, absolutely. It's like, hey, I'm not just living in a hell in my own mind. I'm literally living in a hell that he's designed. Much like Darth Vader living on Mustafar, something like that. Mike Gould says, even if you kill Palpatine, he just goes back to hell, reforms, and comes back. Perhaps he's a Rakshasa or Death Naga. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what I meant by like out the Palpatine could be a. I keep thinking of Palpatine as like a cream for an like a ointment for your nether regions. But anyway, other than a other than a rash relieving cream, Emperor Palpatine absolutely feels like a devil, where you can kill their physical presence, but you can't really take out their. You couldn't kill him forever because he always comes back, even if he did make a clone called Snoke. Eye roll. Anyways, Zamar says, listening to the stream made me want to run a war again. So much intrigue I could pull with so few named characters. But then I would have to be a douchebag DM, and we don't want that. What? No. What? Do it. You don't need permission. The whole point of the show, man, steal the idea, man. You get the whole point of this is just to be influenced, to go like to get that spark. You're like, oh man, I could do this thing that made me think of this other thing, Mike says, when a Sith war, one side is Yuan Ti, the other side is Death Naga. Ooh. Yeah. Now you have a reason to have Yuan Ti Sith in the party. The Death Naga is the final target. Yep. Oh, all right. Here we go. Let's end it on this. Tesla Ranger says, hashtag Last Jedi green milk was non-dairy coconut water, dyed that color. Yep. In post-production. Cool, tasty, and refreshing. face savoring food. Hashtag yum thumbs up. Hashtag battle of the beverages. Glass of milk. Yeah, yeah. Hashtag battle of the beverages. Yeah, Galaxy's Edge. Galaxy's Edge is so cool. I've got photos from standing under the so-called life-size Millennium Falcon, and you get to go inside of it and stuff like. It's really cool. They did an awesome job in that place. Awesome. Mm-mm-mm. Tesla says Mark Hamill at Hamill himself. Hashtag Star Wars Blue was long life milk meant for camping trips that needed no refrigeration. Warm, sweet, and oily. Nauseated face. Hashtag yuck thumbs down. Was that supposed to be the so his head canon was that the blue milk was meant for camping trips that needed no refrigeration on like Tatooine? Hmm. Plura says, I was thinking Galaxy's Edge is far, but you're from the States, so it's not that, that big. It's about if I drove, it's about a 16-hour drive from here, which in the States isn't really that big a deal. It's like, I could do it in a day. So I could drive, I have family halfway between, if I drove, I have family halfway between here and Orlando, Florida. So I drive to Atlanta, 8-hour trip, stay the night, then drive another 8 hours. But it's far easier to fly. It's like a 2-hour flight. It's very, very easy. Oops, sorry. Tesla says no. That was what the Melks actually were. Oh. Oh, okay. I didn't know that that's actually what they were, as opposed to what they were supposed to be in the head canon of the show. Of course, the actual drink in the park is nothing like what the drink was in the movies, which I always assumed was just milk dyed blue. Maybe, I don't know, condensed milk or something like that. Plura is like, you could cover UK twice in 16 hours. Yeah, the United States is pretty huge. People don't realize that, but yep, blue was done in 1977. Was in 1977 Star Wars. Green was in the 2017 Last Jedi. Yeah, sure was. Let's not forget that green milk in 2017 The Last Jedi also came out of a substantially large sized nipple from some kind of aquatic creature. So if you're into that kind of thing, yeah, Mike's like, yeah, good luck crossing. Good luck crossing Canada in that time. Best pack a week's worth of sandwiches. Hell's yes. Although I've always wanted to do the Trans Canadian Rail. I just, for some reason, I just want to do that one of these days. I don't know. Zamara says, DBJ, if we were ever made up, remind me to make you some custom mead. The influence you have had on my games, you deserve it. Oh, thanks, dude. Thank you so much. Let's leave it at there, because I know we can go on forever and ever. But guys, thank you, all of you. Oh, Palora, thanks for just always being there. I know we're busy, but I'm always going to be here. So always love to have you and everybody else. Zamara, and I can't name names because I'll forget someone, but I have had an overwhelming positive response from you guys for such a long time. So I really appreciate it. Mike's like, man, a D&D railway trip across Canada. I've always wanted to do D&D in a castle. There's castles here in Ohio, which is kind of funny. But I will say that I want to improve the channel, and I don't have very much time. Like, I'm looking at the clock right now, like, I got to get out of here. But I will say that I'm always trying to come up with things to make the channel better and more productive and more entertaining for you guys and such, because I've had such a positive, overwhelming experience from you guys. You're funny and brilliant, and it makes me want to keep getting up in the morning to do these things, getting up at, watering the cats and feeding the fish and all that kind of business, and starting to stream at 6 a.m. my time. So I really appreciate it. So I just want to take this time to just give you a shout out. I'm not promoting anything right now. I'm promoting you guys, because you guys make me feel special. Yep. Yeah, Mike. Yeah. There's a side note. There are a number of channels that do like uh not reviews, but like, hey, what's it like to be in this other country or how things are different in other countries? And I always thought we could I could do something like that in relationship to other countries in the United States, but do that in a role playing type of setting. Oh man, Deadman, thanks. Deadman got to it like, nah, we're going to promote this. Yeah, the Level Up 5e. Yeah, it's still going strong. I think they just finished all the magic items. They've all been rewritten. Yeah, Mike brings up yeah, Halifax Citadel, Fortress Lewisburg. We've got fake castles, but they're here in the States. Ravenwood Castle and Limdol's Mohican Castle is also. Vampire was like, "This is my morning show." Yeah, it's mine too. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. I've went quite a bit longer today, but that's all right. Um, uh, Fort Anne in Annapolis. Ooh, I always wanted to do that. I know it's not really on people's minds, but I've always wanted to host a D&D in a castle or role playing games in a castle or something. Maybe that might be a goal of mine one of these days. I don't know. I don't know. Let me turn this off right here. Guys, thank you so much for just being part of the show. I really appreciate it, Plur. Thank you so much. Plur's like, all the best. Take care, all, and have a great weekend. Guys, thank you so much. Perfect way to end the stream. Have a great one. I will see thee early Monday morning, or at least my time.